Welcome to Discerning News, where we bring you current stories from a bigger picture perspective. The purpose is to inspire clarity and enthusiasm for your unique journey.
All right. Shall we hop in? I've got a new great themes for us that will follow into stories and so forth. I think today I'm going to start out with actually a theme that I'm going to highlight. And the highlight is self-interest. Self-interest.
So, what is this for the listeners? What's that?
Well, I think there's things going on in the environment, and it just is highlighting to me the energy of self-interest and the balance and out of balance part of that.
And what part of that is for us, right?
That's right.
Okay.
How we're going to work on it daily. What stands out to you when I say self-interest?
Well, right away, my thoughts were along the lines of, there's times when I'm probably a little confused about what's in my self-interest, what's in the interests of others, and how do I know where I begin and end with that? Because when I listen to the outer, I don't know. I admit that in certain situations, say business or, dealing with people, I come against my programming, which puts me ill at ease. I'm not at ease with my self-interest. So I think today we're going to probably clarify how to know when a person's in balance, when I'm in balance with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for myself, self-interest is all about, and what I see a lot out in the world and even in the news stories is how much of an influence is the outer to my own self-interest.
Yeah. And
how much do I allow that to influence how I move throughout my day, who I'm working with, who I'm around, how my attitude is affected. So I'm interested to see and hear the story you came up with this week and how that's going to be, moving into understanding more about the self-interest.
Yeah. And before we pop into that, I really have to clarify, just following on what you're saying, Tom, and you, Teresa, says that self-interest is a neutral thing. It can be portrayed as a negative thing, like, oh, your self-interest. But, if I don't have my self-interest, it's kind of like saying, if I don't have my loyalty to self, what am I working off of? And to me, it always comes back down to that stories that we tell about, well, when you're on an airplane and in case of an emergency, put on your own mask first, right? And so then you can help others. So I think for me, the major point is recognizing that I need to have some self-interest. Otherwise, I'm not really operating well, and I'm not going to be able to balance anything else out there because I don't know where I begin and end. And that's the you could say balanced or positive part of it that stands out to me.
Absolutely. And what comes to me as soon as you say that is that most people, just like in the spiritual realm, a lot of people talk about what's my purpose?
Right.
And most people have no freaking idea what their purpose in life is, even though I believe we're always on our purpose. We're never off our purpose. We may have little diversions or switch and changes, but we're always on our purpose. So for a person to not recognize what is their self-interest when they're hearing a story about some horrific thing happening around the world, or someone's, throws something at them when they're coming to work or whatever, then they do not know how to really work with the energy.
That's right.
What strikes me is that even when you mention the word self-interest, I start to feel uncomfortable.
That's exactly where I was going.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. So, because of the outer conditioning, being selfish and, we're supposed to sacrifice ourselves, some people believe, for others. And so I'm looking forward to clarifying that. And then also, how do we see this in the bigger picture world, like out in society, out in our work, in our family, in our country, et cetera, and the world.
And recognizing when that self-interest goes the other direction, where it does start becoming that truly greed energy, me first, me second, me third vibe, which is what I think they're talking about, right? That's the
Right.
programming. They're actually talking about that, right?
Yeah.
But so here's an example, right? We'll use a news story as one of an example. So one of the examples is this week they've got the America and Russia meeting happening where it's Putin and Trump coming together to talk about the Ukraine peace talks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to happen in Alaska here this in a couple of days. So one of the big things that was out in the story was Europe wants their security points, like their boundaries. They want peace for Ukraine and they're to have security, but they also want European security. So they're communicating that up front for the peace talks that are going to happen. And so to me, this is an example of that self-interest energy where, yes, we all want peace. I mean, it's just the cost of war is never calculable, right? It's off the charts. But there is also that reality that, well, I need to make sure my own borders are clean and clear. I don't get pulled into something or that I don't need. So they're stating that. They're coming out and saying, hey, we want peace, but we want our own security set up as well. So that's an example to me that, maybe some of those politicians have a little bit of selfish energy, right? Like they're using the peace thing as a smoke screen to make sure that they get what they want, right?
I think that's a really good point, is being aware of when something's being used as a smoke screen, which, my conditioning, I'm aligned with self-interest right away. So you got, oh yes, that's right. That fits my concepts. However, how much of it, what feels funny about it is the smokescreen, I suppose.
Well, and I'd like to hear your point on this. It's like you ever heard that term new money? New money. It's like when someone gets rich right away and then they're like the worst to hang out with because it's like the money is the thing.
Yeah.
Rather than it's just a means, right? Uh-huh. So to me, what it stands out to, and I'm not saying, to be clear, I'm not saying all the European thing is wrong. I'm not saying that they're all greedy or stuff. I'm just saying I need to be aware of when that energy smacks of being greed or when it's being positive, right? Mm-hmm. But that, to me, I've noticed with people who are very secure and they know where they begin and end, and they are clear with their self-interest, it's a much more smooth thing, right? It's like they can be of service because they do know where they begin and end. They don't get involved in things that will stretch them out too far. They do get involved in things that will be of positive value to them and whoever they're working with. So that's the thing that stands out.
We exist in a highly intellectual world, and often the feeling part where your inner wisdom lies gets left out. There's a way to feel more in balance with all parts of yourself. This way is by accessing a spiritual bigger picture of who you are as a soul. Check out the link in the show notes to access a free video series created by the Wayshowers College to support your journey and moving through this game of life. Your intellect and feeling parts will love it.
Yeah. So what all this comes from my perspective is about energy.
Yeah.
So I'm around people that I've noticed some things that come out of their mouth, and just happened last week. One person said to me, they hate this person because they're so rich.
Right.
And my first thought was, well, aren't you rich too? Maybe you're not monetarily rich, but I mean, if we look at our lives compared to most of the world, we are freaking rich. I don't care if you don't have $1 billion, $1 million, $100,000. We are rich people. Yeah. But how much of that richness do you feel?
That's right.
So when someone says to me, like the other day, well, I hate that person. They're so rich. I'm like, so where is that person at energetically? Yeah. So that's where I go with these stories, is that when there's the self-interest, because again, we all have it, because we really need to have
have to.
Right. We need to have a self-interest in what we're experiencing, what we're going through, but also where is a person at energetically when we hear things like people saying about, oh, they're so rich. It really it's for me, it puts it in a perspective of I know where that person's coming from.
Yeah.
So I know how to work with that person. And this is something with the bigger people too, even though it's sometimes that, thinking about the Ukraine with Trump, or Ukraine, Trump, and Putin. I mean, these are people that most of us are never going to be like this with, right, in the same room. So, but how can I relate stories like that to my life and people that I'm around that are of that feeling in themselves, that they're maybe better than others or their egos are big? And okay. So for myself, I recognize, again, I know how to work with them and their energies. I can discern that. And that to me is a big key on the clarity that you mentioned, Tom, and recognizing that clarity for yourself, listeners, is when you're around certain people, how do you interact with them in that discernment?
Yeah, I want to make a beautiful example for me, and Tom, maybe you have one, is I was doing an agreement not too long ago with someone, and I was like, my spiritual helpers, my guidance were really like there for me on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And because in the past, I've really let the issues take over. My intellect gets ahead of me rather than that feel, think, act thing. And I really had a lot of extra backing. And I was able to start off when I was thinking about an agreement with someone, start off with what is my interest here, right? Like that, what is my interest here? And by establishing that, by that little inspiration to say, hey, put that down first, Tiger. I established that first. Then it was like I relaxed. And then it was very easy for me to actually go, well, hey, I could help you here. I could help you here and there, because I knew where I began and end. And I knew, okay, that part, that's for you. And because we don't agree on this other part that is part of my interest, that part is just for me. But we can come together on this, right? And so me allowing myself to just start there, not in a greedy me first, me second, me third thing, just like, okay, what do I begin and end? What do I need? What do I want? And then going from there, if I don't have that, I'm already wrestling with the outside. And like the story, going back to the story with Europe making those announcements, it's like, if they don't start there, where are they going to begin and end? I think where the issue is that, are they using it as a manipulation tool? And that's where I have to be careful that I don't, number one, I don't allow myself to get into a push-pull situation, and I smell it. I think we're going to be talking about that later. I discern when someone else is starting to try to put me in a position because of manipulation.
Mm. Well, and what strikes me is it's kind of back to something we were sharing a couple of weeks ago, was that I've really got to feel what my interests are and feel, what do I need to get out of this situation, or, what's my part in it, the thing that I need. And the other thought that struck me was, I'm going to be working in society and the greater environment. And I'm, you could, for those folks who work for big companies, there's lots of systems they have in place, and those systems sometimes change and morph and so forth and so on. And they can be manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
That's, we have the business world has evolved to master manipulation level. It's in our industrial world since I was younger, and it's become increasingly, that way.
Right.
So it utilizes how I experience is that it utilizes my concepts or my emotions to keep me moving in a certain direction, or I feel indebted somehow, or I have to set up, it's like the old thing of the simple thing, doing a favor for somebody so they feel indebted to you is a game, as it's a manipulation. Now, in some ways we need manipulation because some people are begging for it. And if we didn't have some form of working with each other that way, nothing would probably ever get done. And there can be a greater good, kind of a thing. So I'm not judging manipulation, but I know that I feel more comfortable when I'm in situations beyond my control if I'm just one cog in a company, for example, that has, hundreds of thousands or millions of employees, my voice isn't going to be quite as loud as if I'm in a small company with 5 people. So I have to discern what do I feel I need to get out of that situation. Then the big key for me is just staying relaxed, that I trust what I feel, because the environment's going to want to influence. And I could go on and talk a bit more about that, but let's, you have something you'd like to share?
Well, I'm glad that you guys are talking about the feelings, because that's a lot of our work that we do, right? Is starting with that feeling and then thinking and then acting. So it's like that whole, the balance. And for myself, it really, and I think back a situation that I've been involved in and situations that I may have created in my life that other people have recognized what's a self-interest for them in what I've done. And this also stems back, to how does it feel? So for one person, it may feel a different way. And then like you're saying, Tom, with the outer influences, it may feel completely different for someone else. And so recognizing for myself how something feels is the first stop, the first place I go to these days. And I wasn't like this before, because before I would have outer influence influencing me all the time. And that's when I had my, a hot, energetic mess days. But these days, like you both are saying, with the need to feel it and then also to stay relaxed. That is a big key, because staying relaxed with it, then whatever happens with the other person, the other situation, the other, thing that I'm involved in, I'm relaxed. So it's going to really influence the other part. And that's what I think I hear you saying about the situation you recently had, is that the relax that you felt inside really supported by, also with our spiritual helpers, the whole thing that was transpiring.
Yeah. And then it became a win-win-win situation. It becomes positive because I do know where I begin and end. I can support the other person. It's in my interest to be of service and support the other person. Now I really have the backing of my own backing. I've got their backing. I've got the bigger picture backing. So that's that positivity. And the last thing I would say for wrap-up purposes is, the more I'm tuned into my own self-interest in a positive way, right? Not a negative thing, because that's what you're saying. It's like from the outer, boy, this is just pumped in. Like if you have self-interest, or even like the word desire.
Well,
right?
it's either one way or it's another.
Yes, extremes always.
Extreme one way or another.
And so how people look at it.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yes.
the perspective. So, but if there is that solid feeling that I need to make sure I have my self-interest is covered here, not in a harsh way, just in a clear way, it's so much easier to work with the world out there, to make agreements, to have that interaction with people, to be of service, to be in the job or not be in the job. I know where I begin and end. And I even start attracting the right opportunities. And right is probably the harsh word, but a higher opportunity that's in line with what I've come to do. Because let's say I'm a big, huge merger company, right? We're merging with different. If I know what the bigger picture is of my self-interest, all of a sudden I can discern the motives of other people. And I can say, I think I'm going to go with this merger over here rather than this one, because this is more in alignment. It's more positive. It's more, we're all moving forward. That culture over there fits more of what we want to try to accomplish and earn money and be of service, as opposed to this culture over here is just about earning money and it's screw the little guy or whatever it is, right? So it's like I can have my cake and eat it too, but I have to have that discernment, that I have to know where I begin and end and what is the feeling of that. And once I have the feeling, now I can tap and say, I've got the feeling. Is that over there that same feeling? Is that akin, right? Are we family there? Or is this something that I'm not? This is heading in a different direction. Oh, okay, well, maybe I need to do a temporary thing, but I know I need to head over here.
I know that, as I move through life, concepts that I picked up in my first 7 years, will pop in, especially as I'm involved in life. And if somebody
Right.
I meet, reminds me of my mother or father's vibration or a situation, I can get re-stimulated, even though I have a feeling for what, is in my self-interest. And it allows me to play the game better, because I'm not expecting I'm going to change every environment I'm in, but I certainly can be positive and influence it. And at least I stay relaxed. That's my first priority, and be of service. So I am in more the right place at the right time.
Whether you are a brand new or returning fan of this podcast, we appreciate you. We appreciate you listening to the episodes that we create every single week. If you would love to support us by continually creating great content every week, please consider liking, subscribing, and supporting us monthly. You can find the buttons below to do all the above. Cheers to you and moving into our 6th year of sharing through podcasting.
Okay, so we hope that you guys out there have gotten some insights for how to work with your self-interest in the news stories you might hear out there, as well as your day-to-day interactions with other people, your business, your loved ones. What is your self-interest? And keeping that key is a really important way to discern about how you move forward in your life. And so until next week, we'll see you again soon.
To keep the enthusiasm going, please like, subscribe, or comment below. We would love to hear from you.